Joined by Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning and Happy New Year, Senator. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Kevin. Happy New Year to you and all your listeners.
Protest going on in Iran. What are your thoughts there?
Well, it looks like we're going now into the sixth day of protest today, Kevin. And as I said last week, as the president said repeatedly over the weekend, we need to express our support for the people of Iran and their desire to live in a country that doesn't have a government that represses them and wastes their money and takes their kids' lives on overseas adventures in places like Syria and Yemen or supporting terrorism. The most important and immediate thing that we can do, we've already done, which is express that support. If you talk to anyone that was involved in the Cold War, Soviet dissidents or dissidents in Eastern Europe, always heard whenever the United States stood with them in solidarity. Next steps, concrete steps that we can undertake is to try to make sure that social media platforms are not shutting off access to these protesters, because that's such a critical way they communicate. Just give you one example I read over the weekend. There were only about 1 million smartphones in Iran in 2009, the last time they had major protests. Now there are 50 million smartphones. So we need to encourage channels like Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and so forth to stay open inside of Iran. And then we need to do whatever we can in terms of other concrete steps to keep the internet up and running and make sure that the leadership of Iran understands the grave consequences they would face if they engaged in massive violence against their own people.
Senator Tom Cotton on News Radio 102.9 KARN. Senator, I spoke with Jeff McCausland, military analyst with CBS, earlier this morning. One of the points that Jeff made is that in Iran, a big portion of the population is under 30. Is that something that they're looking at here with this as maybe a different Iran, maybe a regime change in effect there? Is that something that we may even see happen?
Well, Iran does have a very large youthful population, and they've struggled for most of their lives to find a job and get out of their house and get started, in life with getting married and having kids. And, that they were promised that the nuclear deal was going to deliver a faster growing economy that's going to create more jobs, and hasn't done that. Unemployment, especially unemployment for people who are in their 30s or 20s, is still very high. Inflation is very high. The price of food recently has just been going up significantly across Iran. So I think all of these young people look at all the gray-bearded ayatollahs sitting in Tehran on millions, even billions of dollars that have been looted from their state and have finally fed up. They've had it. While these protests may have started about, kitchen table economic issues like the price of chicken or the price of milk or eggs or what have you, I think very quickly the Iranian people have started to express their real frustrations, which is with the source of all that economic mismanagement, a corrupt dictatorial regime in Tehran.
Kevin Miller along with Senator Tom Cotton on News Radio 102.9 KARN. Senator, here at home, what are your goals legislatively for 2018? What are you looking at across your desk?
Well, I was very happy that we got the tax bill finished last month. Our Kansans are going to start seeing the impact of that next month when their taxes are not as high in their monthly paychecks. I'm also very glad that this is the last year people are ever going to have to worry about the individual mandate with Obamacare. 65,000 Arkansans had to pay last year, 53,000 of them made less than $50,000 a year. Moving forward, I want to make sure that the economy continues to grow at the improving pace it had been. So we're going to continue to work on having a smarter, more sensible regulatory scheme that balances costs and benefits. Most immediately, probably, we've got a major immigration negotiation coming up. The president has said that he would like to see a compromise that gives legal status to children or people who are brought here as children through no fault of their own. But if we're going to do that, we've got to deal with the consequences of it. We need to improve security at our southern border and at the workplace. We also need to change our legal immigration system. So those people, if they get legal status, can't bring in millions of more immigrants, to include the very people that brought them here in the first place, their parents.
Kevin Miller, go ahead.
That deadline is coming up pretty soon. Kevin, we've got about 8 weeks to work on that. And I've been in the middle of those negotiations for a long time now, and I hope that we get a good deal. I hope the Democrats are willing to take yes for an answer, because we put a deal on the table for them that would protect those people from deportation while at the same time improving security and stopping chain migration.
Kevin Miller along with Senator Tom Cotton on News Radio 102.9 KARN. Back to the tax cuts. Why not make the tax cuts permanent for citizens? I mean, that is in the bill for corporations. Why not for the average American?
Yeah, well, I certainly would like to make them permanent, Kevin, but given the arcane budget rules of the Senate, without any Democratic cooperation whatsoever, we could only extend them for 8 years. I think most Arkansans realize that 8 years in Washington is an eternity, and they'll be very pleased to get 8 years of lower taxes. And I think you can assume that there's a really good chance that those tax cuts are going to be extended for families, just like they were in 2010 under the Bush tax cuts that were otherwise set to expire. But for that matter, Bernie Sanders said last week that he wished those individual tax cuts were permanent. So I would invite Bernie Sanders and all the other Democrats in the Senate to join us in legislation that we can vote on right now to make those individual tax cuts permanent, if that's the way they feel. Sounds like I hear
a possible intern in the background back there. How is the family? It sounds like you're at home.
If only those little boys were capable of working like some of my low-wage interns, it would make life a lot easier.
Family doing all right?
Doing very well, yeah. Great Christmas, and boys are happy and healthy, and Ann and I are doing great. So thank you for asking. I hope everyone listening today had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and the New Year gets off to a good start where we can all hope to be our best selves for the new year.
Senator Tom Cotton, good to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.